Let's stick with tech because Symantec's stock is seeing a major pop this morning. Right now, up 11.5%. That's because Broadcom is reportedly close to a deal to buy part of Symantec, which you know has struggled lately. You might remember an earlier deal to merge those two companies fell apart last month. Our tech editor, Dan Howley, is here now on the couches to tell us more. Howley, what's up? What's happening here?
Not too much, apparently, except for this deal. This is the possibility that they could really split off kind of Symantec into two different spaces. It would be what Broadcom wants to do is grab the corporate side, the side that allows them to sell to different corporations to use their enterprise security platforms. And then the consumer side would still exist on its own for Symantec. That's kind of the Norton antivirus that you know about. That's, they don't really call it Norton anymore, but that's what that was. So this deal would basically be valued at twice what they've made in their previous year for the enterprise side. So it could be very good for Symantec, especially since they've been struggling in the enterprise space against more nimble rivals. So they're kind of the old guard of this area, which is kind of weird to say is, enterprise cybersecurity, but they are. And there are other platforms out there that are able to better move and react to the market.
If we keep the stock charts up, it's interesting. If you look at that purple pop for Symantec right between July and August, that's when I believe there were first reports that these two companies would merge. And then, well, that isn't happening, fell back down just a little bit, readjustment here, and now both up. It's interesting, too, because it fits with the larger theme that we keep hearing on all of our live shows recently, and that is just how hot enterprise is right now. Enterprise software, SaaS. I mean, think of all the recent hottest IPOs have been these SaaS plays. I mean, that's what Slack is. That's what CrowdStrike is. Businesses that serve other businesses.
It's interesting because none of this is new, this kind of technology, the software as a service, SaaS. This has been around for years. It's really companies are finally able to just go ahead and purchase it and make it part of their systems. It was either too new at one point or it was too expensive, and now it's something that they're able to just jump into and say, okay, we're getting on board now. So just because we talk about the cloud a lot doesn't mean that all of these companies are using the cloud or the fog or the mist or
whatever you want to call it.
I just want to talk about the value of the deal because it's supposed to be $10 billion. Meanwhile, Symantec, just as a company on its own, is valued at $12 billion. So it's like, couldn't they still have bought the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean,
that's a good question.
I think Symantec wants to still hold on to the consumer side of things. But here's the thing about consumer antiviruses, as much as we still need it, Microsoft's Windows has a good antivirus system built in called Windows Defender. There are different freeware options that you can use. So a lot of people tend to kind of avoid using antivirus software now. It's still something that definitely is worth using. I recommend everybody have antivirus software. I don't because I'm lazy, but I recommend people do.
And you're an expert.
I remember when Apple for the longest time was supposed to be virus proof.
I mean,
people said, "Oh, if you have an Apple, don't worry."
No, so with Windows, that was the more hassle platform.
Yeah, exactly.
It was essentially just because nobody was buying Apple products, so no one was buying Macs. So people were like, virus makers were like, "Well, I want to target the largest percentage of the population, so I'm going to go for Windows." And that's still the way it is now. But yeah, I mean, this is interesting. Symantec is a company that's been troubled lately. They had a accounting error that they're still trying to kind of figure out. They lost a slew of executives. So it's a company that's definitely been embattled. To see them go through with this deal would be a benefit to them, obviously. Broadcom has a lot of debt. Symantec has a small amount of debt, obviously. So just to see where this company, though, ends up once the deal goes through, if it does, because that was like, an 11th hour cancellation of the deal previously. So we have to see, let them sign the paperwork to say that this is a deal that's going through. But to see where eventually Symantec goes will be interesting, because if they're only in the consumer space, then where's that growth opportunity, right? People, like I said, don't tend to, I guess, think of antivirus software as much anymore when it comes to growth, but it's the enterprise where, that's where the growth really is. And they just haven't been able to pull it out. Maybe under new leadership at Broadcom, they will.
All right, Howley, thanks so much.
Thank you.
We will watch and see when the deal is finalized.